Hello everybody, I welcome you to my lecture on network functions. So in today's lecture, we shall see the basic introduction regarding network functions. So first let us see the definition of network function. Let me consider a system or network. If the input or excitation of that system is E of t, the output or the response of the system is R of t, then Laplace transform of the input is E of s, the Laplace transform of the output will be R of s. Then I can define my system function or network function or transfer function as the ratio of Laplace transform to the output or the response of the system to the Laplace transform of the input or excitation. But assuming the conditions, initial condition, that is all should be 0. So I can define my network function as the ratio of Laplace transform of the response or the output of the system to the Laplace transform of the input or excitation of the system under the assumption that all initial conditions are 0. So if I assume the system function or the network function to be h of s or g of s or t of s, then mathematically I can represent it as h of s is equal to r of s by e of s, assuming all initial conditions to be 0. Next, the complex frequency and its significance. So we know that in Laplace transform, everything is denoted by a complex number s. So that s is a complex sum of sigma and j omega, where sigma is the real part of this complex sum and omega is the imaginary part of the complex frequency. So complex frequency is nothing but the s that we represent in Laplace transform. This sigma is called Nepper frequency, whereas omega is called radiant frequency or real frequency. So this sigma indicates the exponential behavior in time domain, and the omega represents or decides the oscillatory terms in time domain, such as sin omega t or cos omega t. So let us see in detail what is the main significance of complex frequency. So first case, let us assume that s is equal to sigma plus j omega, j0. So there is no imaginary part, it only has real part. So if s is equal to sigma, then we can see that f of t will be nothing but in the form of k, some constant, into sigma of t. So this is in the form of exponential function. So depending upon the value of sigma, this exponential expression will have its response. So as we can see, if sigma is equal to 0, e power will be 0, so f of t will be 0. So it will be a constant function. So if sigma is greater than 0, that means it is positive value, then it will be exponentially increasing, as you can see from the graph. If sigma value is negative, then it will be exponentially decreasing. So the next second case we can see is if there is no real part, if it consists only imaginary part. So if s is equal to plus or minus j omega, then f of t can be written as k into e power plus or minus j omega t. So e power plus or minus j omega t, I can write it as cos omega t plus or minus j sin omega t. So e power plus j omega t in polar form, I can write as 1 at an angle omega t. Similarly, e power minus j omega t in polar form, I can write as 1 at an angle minus j omega t. So here e power j omega t generally represents anti-clockwise direction of the phasor, whereas e power minus j omega t represents clockwise rotation of phasor. We know that we represent all alternative quantities in terms of phasor. So this rotating vector, we call it as phasor. So as we know that e power j omega t is represented by cos omega t plus or minus j omega t. So the real part of e power plus or minus j omega t is cos omega t, and the imaginary part of e power plus or minus j omega t is sin omega t. So therefore, for positive value e power plus j omega t, the real part will exhibit the behavior of cos omega t, whereas the imaginary part will project the behavior of sin omega t. So as you can see, the real part of e power plus or minus j omega t will be of the form cos omega t, whereas the imaginary part of the e power plus or minus j omega term will represent sin omega t. So in either case, this term represents a purely sinusoidal behavior. The third case, let us assume that S contains both real part as well as imaginary part, that is sigma plus j omega. Then f of t becomes some constant k into e power sigma plus j omega t. So this I can split as k into e power sigma t into e power j omega t. So it is the product of two terms, e power sigma t and e power j omega t. E power sigma t represents the behavior of purely sinusoidal exponential, whereas e power j omega t is also sinusoidal in nature, which is either in sin omega t or cos omega t. So as you have seen in earlier first two cases. In first case we have seen if there is sigma, it represents exponential function, whereas if imaginary part indicates either it is sin omega t or cos omega t. So since here in this case we have both, e power sigma t indicates purely exponential, whereas e power j omega t represents either purely sinusoidal, whether it can be sin omega t or cos omega t. So if sigma is positive, then this term, that is e power sigma t into e power j omega t, will represent a sinusoidal behavior which will increase exponentially as their value or amplitude is positive. If the sigma value is negative, this term, that is e power sigma t into e power j omega t, will also exhibit a sinusoidal behavior, but its amplitude will decrease exponentially. So hence these terms are called damped oscillations. So we can see if sigma is greater than 0, the amplitude will exponentially increase. If sigma is less than 0, it's exponentially decreasing. So this is the significance of complex frequency in three different cases. So as here also you can see, if it is cos term, so if sigma is greater than 0, it will exponentially increase. If sigma is less than 0, it is exponentially decrease. So we can conclude that the imaginary part of the complex frequency generally controls oscillatory behavior, and the real part of S will control the exponential behavior. So next, what is the transform impedance and transform admittance of the basic elements resistor, inductor and capacitor? So first let us take resistor. We know that the voltage across resistor can be written as V is equal to I into R. So if I apply Laplace transform, so this is in time domain. If I apply Laplace transform, this becomes V of S is equal to I of S into R. So as we know, impedance is nothing but V by I, and admittance is equal to I by V. So transform impedance is nothing but ratio of V of S to I of S. So in this case, it is nothing but equal to R. So we know Y is equal to I by Y. So transform admittance is nothing but the ratio of I of S to V of S. So according to this expression, Z of S will be nothing but equal to R, and Y of S will be nothing but 1 by R, which is G, where R is nothing but resistance and G is nothing but conductance. So the value will not change in Laplace domain in case of resistor. Next, coming to inductor. So inductor relation between voltage and current, as we know, V is equal to L into di by dt. So if I take Laplace transform of this becomes VL of S is equal to L into, we all know the Laplace transform of a derivative function. Okay. It is nothing but S in this case, it is S into I of S minus initial current, that is I of 0 minus. So from this we can say that VL of S is equal to S into L of X, S into L into I of S minus L into I of 0 minus. So hence this is the equation of voltage. Obviously these two terms should also be voltage. So here L into I of 0 minus indicates it is a voltage source where I of 0 minus is the initial current through inductor. So this, according to this equation, inductor in Laplace domain can be represented as we can see in previous slide, VL of S is nothing but SL into I of S. So it becomes SL, and we have a voltage source of value minus L into I of 0 minus. So in Laplace transform, an inductor is represented by S into L minus L into I of 0 minus. So coming to transform impedance and transform admittance, we have defined earlier that impedance and admittance or network functions are all assumed that initial conditions are 0. So if initial conditions are 0, I of 0 minus will be 0. So there will be no voltage source here. So VL of S can be written as SL into I of S. So transform impedance Z of S is nothing but VL of S by I of S. In this case, it is S into L. Transform admittance, it is nothing but reciprocal of transform impedance. So it will be 1 by SL. So capacitor. So capacitor, as you can see, voltage will be nothing but 1 by C integral I dt plus some initial voltage Vc of 0 minus. If I apply Laplace transform, this becomes Vc of S is equal to, so since this is a constant, Laplace transform this becomes Vc of 0 minus by S plus 1 by C into Laplace transform of an integral function becomes I of S by S. So here also each term represents voltage. So capacitor in Laplace domain can be represented as a capacitor of value 1 by Sc, because Vc of S is nothing but, in previous case as you have seen, 1 by Cs into I of S, plus this is Vc of 0 minus by S represents a voltage source where Vc of 0 minus is the initial value. So in Laplace domain, capacitor is represented in this manner. So coming to transform impedance and transform impedance, here since the initial conditions are 0, so this value becomes 0. So transform impedance, that is Vc of s by I of s, will be nothing but 1 by Sc. Since transform admittance is the reciprocal of impedance, it becomes Sc. So in order to summarize, as we have seen, in transform impedance, resistance is represented by R, inductor is represented by S into L, and capacitor is represented by 1 by Sc. Transform admittance, resistor is represented by conductance, that is 1 by R, inductor is represented by 1 by SL, and capacitor is represented by Cs. So network functions for one port as well as two port network. Before we go for network functions for one port and two port, first let us see what is a one port function and two port function. So we have already know from the concept of two port network. So one port network is nothing but, as you can see, it is a pair of terminals indicated by 1 dash in the figure. So to this pair of terminals, an energy source or an active element is connected. So these pair of terminals are called port. So here, since we have only one pair of terminals, this is called one port network. Coming to two port network. So here we have two terminals, one at the input side and another one at the output side. So 1 dash is a pair of terminals where we connect an energy source, and 2 dash is another port where we connect load. So here we have to remember a point that suppose the current flowing in the input is I1 and the current flowing in the output is I2. So only if there is a voltage energy source connected to a two port network, the I1 value will be valid. Only when there is load connected to the two port network, the I2 value will have some value. If there is no load connected to the two port network, then in this case I2 value becomes 0. So network functions for one port as well as two port. So generally network functions can be broadly classified into two categories. One is driving point function, second one is transfer function. Remember that driving point function are the network functions we apply for both one port as well as two port, whereas for transfer functions are applied to two port networks only. Driving point function is again further classified into two types: transform impedance function and transform admittance function. Transfer function is classified into three categories: transfer impedance function, transfer admittance function, and dimensional function. This dimensional function is of two types, that is voltage ratio or voltage transfer ratio function and current transfer ratio function. So let us see what are these functions in detail one by one. First one, driving point functions for one port network. So here the driving point impedance function can be defined as the Laplace transform of voltage at a port to the Laplace transform of current at the same port. Remember that driving point functions can be applied to, in this case, only one port. That is, if the voltage is measured at one port, current is also measured at the same port. So here, under the assumption that all initial values are 0. So driving point impedance function, mathematically Z of S is nothing but V of S by I of S. Driving point admittance function is the Laplace transform of current at one port to the Laplace transform of voltage at the same port, assuming initial conditions to be 0. So here mathematically Y of S I can represent as I of S by V of S. Coming to two port. So as I have already told you, here if the current the input is I1 of t and current at port 2 is I2 of t. Driving point functions are only measured at one port. So here in this case, since we have two ports, either we have to define driving point functions either at port 1 or port 2, but it cannot be a combination of both the ports. So the first one, driving point impedance function. So it is a ratio of voltage at port 1 to the Laplace transform of current at port 1, or the Laplace transform of voltage at port 2 to the Laplace transform of current at port 2. So Z11 will be nothing but V1 by I1 and Z22 will be nothing but V2 by I2. So here similarly, driving point admittance function. So if it is the input port, then Y11 is nothing but I1 by V1, that is Laplace transform of current at first port to the voltage at first port, or Y22, that is Laplace transform of current at second port to the Laplace transform of voltage at second port. So this is the driving point functions for both one port as well as two port network. Coming to transfer functions. So transfer functions, first let us see transfer impedance function. So transfer impedance function are only defined for two port network, and Z21 is nothing but the Laplace transform of voltage at second port to the Laplace transform of current at first port. Similarly, Z12 is the voltage Laplace transform of voltage at first port to the Laplace transform of current at second port. So both Z21 and Z12 are called transfer impedance functions. Similarly, transfer admittance functions. Here Y21 is the Laplace transform of current at second port to the Laplace transform of voltage at first port. Similarly, Y12 is the Laplace transform of current at first port to the Laplace transform of voltage at second port. So both Y12 and Y21 are transfer admittance functions. So the remaining two are dimensionless functions, that is voltage ratio transfer function and current ratio transfer function. Both are dimensionless because they are the ratio of same quantities. The first, voltage ratio transfer function, it is either the Laplace transform of voltage at second port to first port, or the Laplace transform of voltage at first port to second port. So G21 of S and G12 of S both are voltage ratio transfer functions. Next, current ratio transfer functions are the ratio of Laplace transform of current at second port to first port, or Laplace transform of current at first port to second port. It is represented generally by alpha of S. So both alpha 21 of S and alpha 12 of S are current ratio transfer functions. So these are the definitions of network functions. So in next lecture we shall see some tutorials on these basic network functions. Thank you.